JJ McCarthy, spring is over. Welcome everybody to the Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football channel. I am one of the post-game hosts, Desmond. I've got my partner Dre with us, as well as Mark Rogers, who you all know. Before we get started, please share the video out on social media. Also, like and subscribe not only to this channel, but also Mark's main channel, The Voice of College Football. Consistently putting out content, great content, and we definitely appreciate Mark having us on. Dre, how we doing today, man?
Good overall. So hey, another day, and hopefully spring is around the corner, and it's just moving along here. But okay.
Good. Mark, how about yourself?
Well, to stay on Dre's theme, before you jumped on, Dre, I swung the camera over to shoot it out my patio window so Des could see. We're getting like buried with snow here in Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
It hasn't stopped snowing since like 10 this morning. It's just snowing. There's like a foot of snow out.
It's rare that we have weather here in Michigan that other people envy. So it's a very rare moment. So, perfect. So got a couple things we want to get into and talk about. But first thing I wanted to kick off with is, earlier today was walking around and thinking about, what we would talk about on the stream today. And I thought about just a couple weeks ago how hot the topic was of, Jim Harbaugh, him coming back and, just the reaction to that. Like it was, piping hot as far as on social media, things like that. And I think Jim Harbaugh overall does that as far as him, his name. But it made me think about just how quick the news cycle now is in just the era that we live in. I mean, because really when I thought about it, I was like, man, that happened so long ago. And it's like, it really wasn't that long ago, but the news cycle, people say 24 hours and like, that's kind of true. Like it really made me think about it and realize like how quick the news cycles really just turn over, where it's like, all right, we're constantly looking for the next story and, nothing really hangs on for that long. Say it again.
Except for the Major League Baseball lockout. I mean, that seems to be the same thing, but that's a whole other sport. Whatever. Don't get me started. Just saying.
But I thought that was interesting. What were your thoughts on that, Dre?
I think it's one of those things where it was I think it was in a decent timing. Was that before the Super Bowl or after the Super Bowl? I can't remember. Because the Super Bowl, if you think about it, like you said, that was only 4 weeks ago. So it was around my birthday, which is always, my birthday is February 7th. So yeah, it's about 4 weeks ago. I don't know. Yeah, a lot has happened. And I think the biggest thing now is because it's due to the time of year, pretty much right after the Super Bowl, we get focused on the draft. And that's, what are most things people require. I would be willing to bet that one of the top search sports subjects this time of year is mock drafts. It's that time of year. And so, this is when then the combine happens. And so anytime the combine happens, you have some kind of huge rises due to great performance at the combine. You have guys who have like these red flags to their Wonderlic score or combine results or what have you. So I think that's part of it. It's due to the time of the year, and pretty much, everyone's pretty much way more focused on the draft than where Jim Harbaugh decided to do or not do.
Yeah, Mark, what are your thoughts?
I think your big indicator there is that how we are so focused on the future. And okay, we just saw that 10 minutes ago. It's over. Let's move on to the next thing. Is they don't even let these guys breathe after they've won a national championship or a Super Bowl, and it's like one question about how does it feel, and then the next question is either can you do it again, or are you going to be back, and it's always, we're always forward thinking. All you have to do is look at these channels. I'm sure other ones are similar to ours here at the Voice of College Football. Most of these speculative videos do the best. people speculating, even if it's crazy speculation, like it's never going to happen. Urban Meyer's coming to Michigan. Oh, it gets a ton of views. The crazy speculative type content is what people are after. Yep.
Yeah, it was interesting. Go ahead, Dre.
No, it's just one of those things where I think about like a guy like Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford went from in probably like a 3-4 week span. The guy, the hero who got saved from Detroit, and is now bringing the championship to LA. To video circulated of him, intoxicated at the parade. Till like 24 to 48 hours later, the photographer fell, and Stafford turned his back or whatever it was. So, it's crazy how things change because we're constantly looking for the next thing. But yeah, it's always a speculatory or slanderous type news that we tend to get caught up on. Besides, just like the status quo, like same old, same old.
Yeah, it moves so quick, and like Mark was saying, you win a national championship, and like the next day on ESPN, you've got the way too early top 25. Like it literally is just so quick.
I can't stand that, and I know.
But people, I guarantee the reason that it's there is because people click on it. I would guarantee it, and people want to see that too. Like, okay, well, Jordan Davis is leaving. What's Georgia going to do to replace those guys they're losing on defense? And how are they? I mean, people want it. I think it's something people want to see.
We don't know. It's like the thing, and that's why I commend someone like Mark, because it's like there's so much that changes in college year to year. It's not like the NFL where guys are signed for the most part, and where they're going, and they're pretty constant. Contract in college, there's gonna be huge turnover, or just guys getting. It's just I don't know. I feel like it's so much harder to predict.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. Ed Rogers with the comment: "We won't let you forget how Harbaugh abandoned his team and you welcomed him back like a conquering hero." That is. Oh, I think he said it all there. But I know on obviously with our channel, we were extremely critical of Jim Harbaugh and not necessarily his decision of what he did, which to me he's got the ability and the right to do whatever he'd like, but I just don't think he did Michigan any favors with how it went about. Now, as yesterday's news cycle, I mean, you look at it today and really, I guess there's no real ill effects today. I think when you start to talk about potentially recruiting and things like that, where you may go up against an Ohio State, for a recruit, maybe not, but I would assume Ohio State and really any of the bigger schools are going to bring that up, that, man, do you even know if your coach is going to be there in 2 years? He's done this before. Is it, because at the end of the day, I mean, recruiting, it's definitely not the cleanest business of all out there. And at the end of the day, winning is the only thing that really, truly matters. And that's the thing that's going to get you paid the big bucks. You look at a guy like Jimbo Fisher, you look at Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, Ryan Day, like those guys are getting paid a lot of money. It's because they win. And in order to win, you got to get those recruits. So, I think most likely we'll see the effects of that maybe in the next, this next cycle after spring happens, from spring to, essentially training camp, potentially of guys hopping in the portal, things like that. So we'll see. But I mean, in hindsight, it doesn't look like there's many ill effects of Jim Harbaugh and how he handled the whole situation, if I'm being completely honest about it.
Yeah, I just think, and it's just due to the fact that it just wasn't, I think, a lot of turnover in terms of personnel. Like, I think if we would have saw something drastic, like, JJ McCarthy entering the transfer portal or something like that, that would have really, like, kind of opened up some eyes. Like a change that Michigan fans have been, tied to emotionally and we're going to get into JJ ironically in a minute. Something like that would have kind of jarred the fan base and therefore, caused people to have some kind of visceral reaction as opposed to really nothing really changed. No harm, no foul, essentially, besides just embarrassment and irritation and inconvenience. That was pretty much the result of that whole situation. So, we kind of we don't forget. I'm not forgetting, and I hope no one else forgets. But we're going to move forward.
Yeah. And Ferris says, I thought Harbaugh was fairly transparent in his NFL interests. And honestly, Ferris, I would argue that is part of the problem. When you're in a public position, like that's your profession, there's some transparency that you should definitely have, but I don't think you should be 100% transparent because that's when you run into these issues. And to me, I think he was more transparent after he made his decision. Like, I don't think he was very transparent early on. He was just letting rumors fly, whether correct or not. He was just letting them fly without doing anything. He was just sitting back and not really quelling the rumors. It would have been very easy for him to do that. And I think that that is one of the downfalls of not having an agent, because it'd be very easy for an agent to be able to manage that kind of PR situation versus Jim himself. I don't, well, based on the track record, I don't think he does great with that. So that's just, I guess, my 2 cents on it. What are your thoughts on that comment that Ben has there, Mark?
I was going to say about, kind of maintaining credibility in regards to his connection and loyalty to Michigan first would be that I think it's all going to depend on how much he can sell this line that he seems to be emphasizing that, yeah, I tested the waters, and it's funny the way he spins it is that kind of he turned down the NFL. I just listened, turned down the NFL, and
My God.
and so now I'm back in Michigan, and I've promised Ward Manuel that you're not going to have to worry about this for the duration of my contract, as I understand it. That's basically how he stated it the other day at this news conference to lead off spring practice. So if he can convince everyone, and I think he's trying to pound that line into everybody's heads that I've signed this new contract, there's an extension, this is the reason why we did this extension, that I am tied to this extension and I'm not jumping ship until then. And it's going to be all up to his ability to sell that, convince people, and get them to trust him.
I think that's what he's attempting to do, Mark, but I don't think that's the right approach. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I believe being transparent with what happened, where you are, and what will resonate more than with trying to spin things. Because I think at this point in time, with his track record throughout his coaching career, with the way he handled this past offseason, just kind of putting everything on the table and saying, and he probably did look at legitimate interests. It's always going to be in the back of my mind. But as of now, I'm just committed to making the best of my time here at Michigan. And I think that people can respect that because, look, besides Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney, I don't think there's any head coach in any Power 5 program that you can ever dismiss as potentially going to the NFL one day. Like Lincoln Riley, can coach at USC for 2 years. Let's say he wins a natty at USC, once within the next 3 years. He'll be a great NFL candidate, right? I think anybody who's paying attention to the landscape of the game, you realize that. So I don't think you have to run away from that. We all know it's a business. Players nowadays know it's a business, and you can see in the transfer portal they're starting to approach it like that, right? So I don't think you have to try to, create some narrative. Just be honest, do the best you can. And I think people will respect that at the end of the day. I do.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh also, and I can't remember. I thought I saw something on Twitter about him saying something in the realm of haters or something to that effect about uh, what people's perception of the Michigan team, and they, some will always root against us, or and maybe I'm making that up and I saw something, but it's interesting. Dre, how would you rate Jim Harbaugh's self-awareness?
Oh, really, really low. Like a 3. Like a 3 out of 10. It's just because I don't. Any guy, I think honestly, man, I think he's in his own world. He's in this Jimmy world. Like he just is. I mean, he's a different kind of guy. He just is. Now, I don't think he has a huge sense of self-awareness. No way in the world. Nope. Mm-mm. I mean, look. I mean, he looks. No, I'm not going to do this. Now you're gonna make me sound like I'm attacking the guy, and I'm not. Gonna
I just and the reason I ask that is because to me, I don't think that for the people who don't like Michigan, I don't think it's because of Aiden Hutchinson or Devin Bush or Rashawn Gary or any of those guys. I think it's the things with the climbing trees with recruits, and you had to sleep over on somebody's floor, and the drinking milk till as much milk as your little belly can hold, and nervous bird. I think it's those things that people look at as to why they don't like Michigan, right? Ohio State fans and Michigan State fans, let's separate them because that's a rivalry. But the reason I asked the self-awareness question is because I don't think he understands a lot of this stuff is because of you, like the things that you've done. Like I don't see, Mel Tucker doing those types of things. I don't see Ryan Day doing those types of things. I don't see, James Franklin for all of his flaws and shortcomings for Penn State. I don't see him doing those things, and that type of attention overall doesn't come to them. I mean, there was a debate I saw. I think someone had ranked the college football coaches, and they had like James Franklin maybe number 5 or something like that. And I saw on Twitter Steve Dace had basically responded saying that there's no way Franklin should be that high. Regardless of how you feel about it, essentially those James Franklin and Jim Harbaugh have essentially the same resume, but somehow James Franklin has the perception that he's a better coach, and Vanderbilt, and there's reasons why, but Jim Harbaugh would have just as much of a resume to say that he should be higher as well. But I think he misses some of those things because of the things that he does as far as the actions and the comments and things like that.
See, I think it's. I don't think the hate against Michigan has to do with Harbaugh as much as it's Michigan attempts to portray a high morality compass, right? Leaders and best on the field, best in the classroom, best as citizens, right? And I think for one that rubs some people the wrong way, because even though it's an outstanding university, Michigan academically portrays himself in a way as an Ivy League school, with also having top Power 5 results in sport athletics. And it's rare where a university has both, right? So I think that rubs people the wrong way. I think the people that hate Michigan also hate the same reason they may hate Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame has a similar type of feeling and presentation as a university. So I think Jimmy's eccentric, him being eccentric, just kind of puts the icing on it because he's a Michigan man. He's literally perfect, So I think it's all kind of icing on the cake.
Mark?
Well, some of the things that you cite, so I've made fun of them too. But on the other hand, I'm thinking about these things and I'm thinking, okay, is any harm being done? Is there anything ethically wrong with any of these things, morally wrong with these things? Absolutely not. Any of them. They're all just quirky, odd, strange things. That's like when he was on the run of taking his team overseas 2 or 3 straight off seasons.
Oh yeah.
Some people view that as a great thing. They get a different experience. They get to interact with different cultures, and that's a great experience for them. Other people, if you viewed it as, well, they just lost their bowl game or they didn't have the season we expected them to have, well, this is a bad thing because they should be focused on football. You shouldn't be focused on going to Italy. You should be focused on football. So it's all depends on your slice, and if he's your slice of the pie and your perspective, and whether he's your guy or he's not your guy. He's one of those polarizing guys, and so if he's your guy, then you're going to love those things, and if he's not your guy, then you're going to find a way to tear it down.
But you know what I found, Mark, is that people, and look, you don't by no means you have to attend the university to rep that university and that to be your favorite school, but I found that this from listening to other medium forums, radio, podcast, TV, that Michigan alumni don't mind at all, or not are as affected by the Michigan propaganda as much as a person who was a fan of University of Michigan but didn't go there. Because when you go there, some people call it brainwashing in local medias here in Detroit, but it's when you are a student there and you're immersed in that culture, you are in a culture that tells you that you are a leader and best. You're better than everyone. Not to say it's entitlement, but it's all around you. That's all you know. Than your time at Michigan.
Well, and it's a difficult school to get into.
It is. It's an outstanding school. But I'm just saying that. So once you go into the world, you don't mind these propaganda, like though that view on your university, because you view your university like that. But someone like myself and other fans who didn't go to the University of Michigan, but as a fan of the University of Michigan, we couldn't give a crap about being leaders and best and all the other stuff. We would care about the results because that's what we rep it for. We rep for the athletics, not what the moral compass of the university is, right? So it's different. And I think that's also a difference as well in how people view it.
And that's why you see on social media prior to the last Saturday of this past November when things changed, you saw that Michigan contingent, and it was probably coming from students or alumni that, sure, they want to win. And if you're winning in that rivalry, then you obviously just capitalize on that and say, we're winning, we're the best, we beat you. But if not, that there was a lot of criticism, or it appeared as though a lot of Michigan people, again, most likely coming from a connection to the university as a student or alumni, were basically saying, yeah, we did lose, but kind of like we have more important things going on. Like, we're more well-rounded.
We're saving lives.
Yes, we're saving lives. We're educating people. We're doing these things. Right. Like, you guys are paranoid with football.
Yeah, that's it. It's just like, hey, can't we do both? But let's keep it separate, guys. You can be proud of the university. No one is saying not to. It's an outstanding university, but yeah, we just got beat by 35, and we should all be ticked about that against Ohio State. Okay, at that time. So it's like, let's put that aside. I know you want to wear your big blue, your big block M on your chest. That is fine, but just realize on the field it got dragged up and down it. So anyway, you guys want to move into JJ next?
Sure. Before that, there was a question. No, you're fine. Because we definitely want to talk about the 5-star quarterback who's injured, but there was I believe Ferris posed the question where he said that basically if Jim Harbaugh wanted a job in the NFL, do we think he could have gotten one? Dre, what would be your... Yeah, so here's Ferris, and thanks again for the comment. So let's discuss. You don't think Harbaugh could have landed an NFL job if he did a full press trying? Dre, what is your thoughts?
It's the end of your question. Why should he need to do a full press trying? The end of your question should tell you all you need to know. If you are a worthwhile candidate in the NFL, you don't have to go knocking looking. They will come knocking for you, and they would do pretty much anything they can to get you to run their organization. You know, the Los Angeles, no, I'm sorry, excuse me, the Las Vegas Raiders, who were the Oakland Raiders at the time, went and took a chance on a coach, on a guy who was in TV broadcasting, who had coached in almost 10 years, I want to say. And because he was getting paid so much money by ESPN at the time, they gave him, what was it? What they
10
gave
year,
him?
$100 million.
10 years, $100 million. At the time, that kind of control and commitment, has been seen in the NFL coaching ranks, right? So that tells you the desperation that these NFL organizations have. They want you. They will do whatever it takes to get you, and you don't have to be waiting. It happens relatively quickly too. There's no, you know, hitting back channels. You know, the process starts pretty quickly and it's very, very aggressive. You know, so
And I would say even a coach who's been hired more recently than that, I would look at Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, he was fired at Texas Tech, and before he took the Arizona Cardinals job, he took the job as the OC at USC, and then he got the job offer from the Cardinals. So kind of similar, you know, to piggyback off your point, Dre, is they'll come and find you. And I also think the NFL is a copycat league, and right now the wave is offensive guys. It's quarterbacks coaches, it's offensive coordinators. It is, you know, it's those types of guys. I mean, you look at Robert Saleh, he was probably, and maybe I'm missing somebody, he's probably the most recent defensive focused head coach that's been hired. Like, it's right now the wave and the era is offensive coaches. So in I would say Jim Harbaugh is an offensive coach, but when you look at innovation and you look at, you know, points per game just as a whole, not just looking at 1 year, you know, I wouldn't say that Michigan offensively under Jim Harbaugh has been a juggernaut. And to me, that's why I would look at a guy like Lincoln Riley, who, when I believe Mike McCarthy was hired for the Cowboys, there were rumors that Lincoln Riley was potentially a candidate there. So I don't think Jim Harbaugh could have been a head coach if he wanted to in the NFL, because I think regardless of what he says, I think he wants to be an NFL head coach. That's just my 2 cents on it. Mark, what about you?
Well, I think that if we add up all the indicators, they back up what you're saying, because on the plus side of Jim Harbaugh's NFL candidacy is that he got an NFL job. He took over one of the worst franchises in the NFL. He made them instantly, arguably, the best team in the NFL, even though they didn't win a Super Bowl. They had the best record for 3 or 4 years. He's got a top 5 record in the history of the league for a guy that's been around for 4 years or more. 3 straight NFC championship games, a Super Bowl. So if you just cut off the resume right there and say, and then look at what he did at all of his college stops, he improved the situation everywhere he went, you'd be like, hey, this guy should get another NFL job. But had offensive football not changed so much between, when did he leave? 2014? We're looking at 7 years ago, and now
it's huge.
Maybe he would be a more viable candidate. But since then, he's gone. He had a bad end at San Francisco. There was a lot of talk about him not getting along with players and just being abrasive or whatever. He is
being Harbaugh.
Him being Harbaugh. And like the end did not just on the field, him having like a 6-10 year, but like there was a lot of other stuff, because a guy with his track record shouldn't have gotten fired after just one bad season, 6-10. He just had the best record in the league for 3 consecutive years. He shouldn't have gotten fired. So there was a lot more going on there. And then he goes to Michigan and never turns them into an offensive juggernaut, has a very old school approach. And then up until this year, when he ironically got some leads with the NFL, finally beat Ohio State. But before that, you know, he had done a decent job at Michigan, but not the kind of work that would get him back in the running as a hot commodity in the NFL, running a pedestrian offense for a good team, but not a great team that can't beat its rival. And it's been 7 years since he ran an NFL franchise, and his offense is not looking like what the NFL looks like right now.
Look, there's some factors. There are some factors that that was under his control, and some that were not. And Mark, you touched on them. And look, he can control during his time at Michigan that the NFL offensively would have evolved so much. He had nothing to do with that. But like he had to evolve himself at Michigan. In terms of his philosophy. So, and it's not only offensively what the NFL is doing now. It's also like right or wrong, whether it's intentional or not. We hope not, uh, because that'd be what age discrimination or something like that. But it tends to be that it's a younger man's game in terms of the head coaching jobs now. It just is. You're seeing a wave of these new young guys who've been part of these, long coaching trees, and now they're getting opportunities. And it's rare if you're seeing a retread of the other guys. Like we no longer see, for God's sakes, Jeff Fisher is now coaching in what is it?
The USFL, the Michigan
USFL,
Panthers.
the Michigan Panthers. He used to be one of those guys always in the coaching carousel. You can count on his name coming up if he wasn't coaching in Tennessee, if he wasn't coaching for the Rams at one point. He was always one of those names. You used to see back in the day Dick Vermeil all the time. There's certain, Bill Parcells, like all these guys each era has a coach, right, who has some success somewhere and then they retire or they get fired and they name always comes up. But now what you're seeing is that you're not seeing, your typical coaching carousel guys being brought back in the league. I saw Lovie Smith, which was random by the Texans, but whatever. But you're seeing it be more of a younger trend now.
Especially those first three names you mentioned, though. That's a pretty high-level carousel.
For sure, absolutely. Those are Super Bowl winners. Bill Parcells has won one with the Giants. Dick Vermeil with the Eagles, right? 79.
Vermeil lost with the Eagles, but then he came back and he won with the Rams.
Well, yes, the 1 yard short. Yes,
yeah. And Fisher lost that game.
Ironically, yes. Yes,
that's interesting. But in also I would point to Harbaugh not getting a job if he wanted to, because I even look at the different systems and positions that these offensive coaches are getting head jobs. Like I believe his name's Kevin O'Connell. He was the OC for the Rams. I mean, Sean McVay calls the plays, so he wasn't even a play caller with the Rams. So it's not as if you have to have a certain type of resume as an offensive coach. It really didn't matter. I mean, he was not a play caller, and I think there was someone else who was either a quarterback's coach but not the play caller for their respective team, and was able to get a head coaching job. So it's not a
Campbell.
I mean, I just don't think it's something where it's super selective as far as what you need to do and what you have had to do, which leads me to believe that Jim Harbaugh could not have just gotten a job if he wanted one. Maybe Miami, just because of the connection with Ross, but I mean, I would argue the same thing with Minnesota, that he's got he even has a closer connection, right? I get it. It's not the owner, but the GM, who probably has a lot of say-so in who gets that job. If your close friend couldn't get you that job, then I don't see. I don't know that I just don't. I would say Miami maybe, but I just don't. I don't think he could have just picked any job that he wanted. Anything to wrap up that topic, Mark, as we move on to JJ?
Don't think so. I think I'm good on Harbaugh for this week.
Lord.
So I've heard, and once again, maybe this is just me making stuff up. So I've heard multiple things on JJ McCarthy. I have heard that he's injured, he's hurt, he's going to be out until basically it sounded like a couple weeks before fall camp. I thought I saw that he was going to have surgery, but then I've also seen that he's not having surgery, that it's whatever the injury is, it's going to be a non-surgical and it's just a rest type of thing. But nonetheless, JJ is out. So you're talking no reps. I mean, they started spring practice what, a week ago, 8 days ago. Um, so you're talking. I mean, JJ shut down from now until fall camp. I mean, I don't see any remote chance that Cade McNamara is not going to be QB1 starting the game one. Not even fall practice. I'm talking game one. There's just no way. But sticking with JJ, is there any concern in your eyes, Dre? Because when you look at it, this is probably the most amount of first team reps that JJ has had, or let's just call it reps. This is probably the heaviest workload he's had as a quarterback at Michigan.
Mhm.
And we're talking, 8 days into practice. Obviously, we don't know what the injury was, whatever the case, but he's dealing with his heaviest workload, and he's injured he's out for 5 months. Is that concerning to you at all? What are your thoughts on it?
Not too much right now. I mean, like he's been throwing a football his whole life, and I think that I'll be more concerned if this lingers past this year. And for starters, I 100% agree. I think that this all but solidifies Cade McNamara for being a starter for Michigan Week 1. And for Michigan, that's okay, because the beauty of that situation was, and Cade established himself last year. He has the experience, so you prove that you can win with him. This is never about replacing the quarterback because you weren't, you couldn't be successful with him. It was about seeing if you can elevate yourself to another level. And so, for one, Michigan fans should not be panicking at all if Cade McNamara going out there starting week 1, especially with the strength of the schedule that we have. He's more than capable enough to get the job done. But when it comes to JJ, all I want to know is, we need to find out and they may not release this information. We don't know. Was there any structural damage to the arm? Is it just soreness? Because if it's just soreness, look, shut the kid down, which they're doing. Make sure he is 100% healthy. There is zero reason to rush him back. Zero reason. Let the kid rest himself, because he is, the future of your program. Maybe you get another redshirt year out of him because of this. You never know. But I think it's imperative as well for Michigan to handle this situation correctly, because this kid has aspirations to be successful at your school, but he also has aspirations to be successful in a pros as well. And so I think if you think about if Michigan handles the situation badly, what if somehow they don't handle his medicals right, and this goes on to be a prolonging issue because they rush him back, and all of a sudden he does not able to have the full career he's supposed to. Think about how bad that would look on uh, the university and the staff. So I know that's not a likely scenario, but I'm just trying to bring up the importance of why they should handle this the most cautious way they can. And so far, it looks like they are.
Yeah, I'd also imagine that JJ's family is on top of this and will be on top of this. Like if you're JJ's dad and mom or whoever his support system is, there is absolutely no way that if he's not feeling 100%, that he's going back out on that field. There's no way, and I'm sure that Jim Harbaugh will be on the same page. But at the end of the day, his family and his team is going to have the final say on that. But Mark, go ahead.
I love this comment from Harbaugh.
Uh-oh.
JJ's practicing, just not throwing.
It's mentally.
Like saying a wide receiver's practicing, he's just not catching. An offensive lineman's practicing, he's just not blocking. I understand you can be involved in the practice. You could run, you can stretch, you can hear the play call, you can maybe carry out some handoffs. But if you're not throwing and you're a quarterback, it's just a funny statement.
Yeah. He's mentally picturing, rhythm and timing with his receivers. He's working on all that stuff. He's visualizing everything. So look, No, he should be involved. By no means should he be like, not around the team and not. He should be at practice. He should be soaking up everything. He needs to stay locked into the playbook. All of that stuff is critically important. But you know, no, the kid's resting. He's having some soreness. Like I said, as long as there's nothing structurally wrong, that's the main thing, right? You want to hear about. It's rare that you see this with quarterbacks with no problems with the UCL, which is typical when guys in baseball when they need to get Tommy John surgery, and hopefully no problems with the rotator cuff, just stuff like that. Other than that, if it's just soreness, just make sure he's good.
Well, I wonder if and just because you think about Dak Prescott's injury that he had, like it was kind of a weird injury. Now, obviously, I'm not speculating that JJ has the same thing, but for Dak, like I don't think it was ever clear on what kept him from throwing the ball. Like I had heard something about like a lat muscle, but also heard it was a muscle under the lat. Like it was just a weird thing, and he ended up, just having to rest, and the year turned out fine for him as far as performance wise. But yeah, I think he's actually having off-season surgery, so that it's just interesting. Once again, just need to take care of it, be on top of it, and go from there.
Who is
Mark, what are
making
you?
fun? Who in the world is making fun of Michigan? I see. This is where I look. You know what? I don't. Where have we made fun?
I think
Guys,
Justin,
please.
Justin is not differentiating making fun of Michigan and making fun of Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Justin's been here before. I've seen that
Oh yeah,
that picture before.
No,
Like,
Justin's
come on,
he's a
man.
loyal. He's a pretty loyal listener. I don't know what he's referring to. I mean, no, we look. Yeah, we poke fun at Jimmy, but no one's poking fun at Michigan. I don't know. I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna try.
Brent's got our back. He says we
Thank
haven't
you, Brent.
made fun of Michigan.
Thank you. Like anyway, no, I hope the kid has a speedy recovery. But this is huge. If you were on a JJ train and you're ready for him to take the reins and and lead this program on the field, that's not gonna. It looks like that's not going to happen this fall. And I gotta be honest, I just thought about this too. I really did not want to go through another year of the quarterback carousel, but we might just have just landed into another one because now JJ does come back in the fall and is Kurt Case the guy, but what does Jimmy do? Does he do what he did last year to make sure JJ stays involved, or based on the injury, do they just medical sit him down for the year, but he's not hurt, so they can reserve his eligibility for another year? I don't know, man. Like, oh God.
But think about this, Dre, I'm pretty sure I'm accurate. Cade McNamara is the most accomplished starting quarterback in the conference. No other starting quarterback has
Well,
won the Big Ten.
team wise, I mean, CJ was the highest finalist. But so yeah, but
Correct.
team success wise, yes.
Yeah.
I think everyone agrees that CJ by far is the. If you think if K so far as the starting quarterback, CJ is the best quarterback in the conference. Talent wise.
But I didn't say the best. I said the most accomplished.
Right.
And
No,
that
no, no,
is
you're
true.
right. Team wise, no, you're correct about that. Absolutely.
Well, he's a Big Ten champion, and he's a starting quarterback for the Big Ten championship.
I'm not used to hearing that when it comes to Michigan quarterbacks. See, now I made fun. See, now I just made fun of Michigan, but I can do that because I'm a fan. I would defend it. I can attack this because I'm going to defend this hard too. So it's okay. I've had enough pain in the past where I can throw some jabs every now and then.
exactly. I find it refreshing. You get Dre. He's going full throttle. Michigan, Michigan, Michigan. I love Michigan, but he's he'll crack a little smile and he'll take a shot at his coach and take a shot at his team a little bit and just have some fun.
You
There you go.
you gotta keep some balance with it. Like I loyalty. My loyalty is to my favorite team, but I'm not blinded to things I see, and I try to call it as I see it. I hope for the best and want the best, but I don't lie to myself if I see something different, right? And I leave it there. I think that's the difference between like a a fan and maybe like a Slappy. I feel like a Slappy just wants everything to be sunshine and rainbows and everything is awesome and there's no problems here. And I just no. Sometimes things don't go well, and it's okay to say they're not going well, and it's okay to say you have concerns, and those are a baseline because you want the best, not because you know what I'm saying. So I guess it's interesting when you see those different points of view. I've always wanted, and I'm not going to go on the rant here. I've always wanted to hear a honest critique of my school and my favorite team. Both the positive and the negative, so I can check myself as I'm watching the product on the field or court. You know what I'm saying? So I don't need you to tell me how great my favorite team is because I'm going to see that regardless. So anyway, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine you don't want another year of the two quarterback system
It's
and
distracting. It's a distraction, and unfortunately, just for both guys, like um, you don't. I don't know. Like I don't think it's fair to Cade for him to have to go through it. I don't think it's fair to JJ for him to have to go through it. And no, have any of the guys came out and said they had a problem with it? Of course they're not. They're not going to do that to begin with. But um, Des, you've been consistent with this throughout the years. I think the least distractions around and in your team, the better, right? And so that's why that's where that fear comes from.
We appreciate the nice comments coming in from Ferris. I've never seen Ferris in here before, but he says he loves the show. And so, Ferris, we appreciate that. Brent and others saying they like the show. It is funny for anybody out there, and there are probably some people in the chat that have YouTube channels on whatever subject on your own. It is for podcasts. It is funny to look at the feedback because I'm open to all sorts of feedback and criticism, and that's you got to be willing to take that on. But it was funny this week because, and they were listed back to back, that made it even stand out even more. To the same video, I had somebody call me an Ohio State homer, and in the next comment, somebody else called me a Michigan homer. To the same video.
Well, I mean, I think that goes to the like Dre was saying, the good and the bad, because everybody thinks you're a Michigan hater if you say something that is not flattering to Michigan, and vice versa. If you say something nice, it's like, oh, well, you're just a homer and blah blah blah. So I think that goes to show that you are objective on things.
Like anytime I give him, I swear, anytime I hear I give Mel Tucker a compliment, people are like, "Oh my God, what has he done?" The guy was like, "I'm I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's just a great coach. I just like the way he carries himself. I like the way PJ Fleck carries himself. They're just certain guys. I like their persona. That doesn't mean that I'm saying they're the best of the best or anything like that. But and I don't like the way our coach carries himself. That's how it is. I don't, that's not me saying, well, let's compare resumes. Ain't nobody doing that. That's a whole different thing. But it's interesting. It's one of those things where people truly do, and by all means, we love your support, guys. They hear, and I might do. I probably do this too. When I listen to stuff too. They hear what they want to hear, as opposed to the full thing at times. And when you do that, you can make judgments that don't accurately depict the full picture or painting that someone's trying to present. But that kind of goes with it. So.
Well, the one thing that I've seen repeatedly in here, Dre, is when we're talking about the Big Ten and what the Big Ten's looked like for the last 15 or 20 years, you've made the obvious statement a number of times. Ohio State's led the Big Ten for the last 15 or 20 years. Well, anybody who can do math, simple math, wins, losses, it's not even close.
Someone just like, no way.
You in the chat for just making a statement that's obvious.
Yeah, like I'm happy to say that, Like, would it make it easier if I looked depressed when I said, no, it's just the truth. Like, like it just make me want to vomit when I say that. Of course it does. Like you want me to say that I wish we destroyed Ohio State every year like we did in November, and that's like I wish that could be on rinse, wash, repeat. Like I could just play that, and that's what happens every single year. But that's just not reality, and I have to call it out like I see it. And it's how it is. Do you see how? Oh,
That's going to be a barn burner. 48-45 this year.
that sounds like a lot of anxiety for me watching that game.
Hey, it's a
And
win.
fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun. A couple
We
days
talked about this,
after
guys.
Thanksgiving,
Michigan
it'd be
wins.
nice.
If Michigan wins at C-Bus, we talked about that. Like that is going to really, I think, change the trajectory of this rivalry, and that will be huge, especially in that kind of that in a close game like that at C-Bus. That'll be huge for them. Absolutely.
Who's going to start at quarterback that game for Michigan?
Don't do that. Didn't we just say don't do? Don't do that.
Just saying.
Oh God! Can you imagine like halfway through the season, Michigan's doing kind of well. No, this is going to happen, right? Michigan's going to just, while Cade starts going to destroy the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season because the schedule is so weak, right?
No, Cade's going to throw 10 passes a game the first 4 weeks of the season.
Right, and they're just going to just be 4-0, 5-0, be like in a top 15, top 10 somewhere, right? And then let Michigan go out in the first real opponent, they somehow lose, right? It won't be all Cade's fault. And by then, JJ's back in practice. He's repping. He's throwing the ball over the place. You get the rumor mill. So JJ looks great in practice, right? Maybe JJ gets sprinkled in there a little bit, in the first few games while he's back. And it's like, okay, well, all right. JJ's healthy now. Yeah, I think it's time for him to start. Can you imagine? That's how it's like, oh, God. But whatever.
It's interesting. That'd be something. But yeah, that I would imagine the first 4 games we're probably going to see probably 40 pass attempts from Cade. Because
that would be ridiculous, Daz. I mean, come on, they're playing Hawaii and Connecticut. For God's sakes, I don't think we have to run the football every time to beat them. Let's have fun.
We don't, but
maybe they do what we want them to do. Maybe they don't. Hey, we know we have really good running backs in Quorum and Edwards. Let's throw the ball around a little bit.
Trey, let's level with yourself.
It's Hawaii and Connecticut.
Listen, we were on the week after week when we played Western Michigan, and then those other cupcake teams that they played, and before the game, we talked about, oh man, let's get in there, air it out. You've got your margin of error is humongous, and we got 15 pass attempts. Like we've got to speak in reality, not with what we want. I would love to have Cade and JJ in those first 4 games, each having, throw it 60 times a game. I really don't care because as I mentioned, you're going to get in some games where you're going to have to air it out, and it's best to know what you have to deal with than not. But I also said that before last season, and Michigan won the Big Ten. They beat Ohio State, beat Penn State, and we're in the college football playoffs. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
Dude, they're gonna beat Connecticut and Hawaii combined like 100 to 10 or 3. Like it's like literally like, and I here we go. Right here's the stat line for the Hawaii game. Michigan 57, Hawaii 3. Michigan has 450 rushing yards off of 30 attempts, and like Dad said, about 12 passing attempts of 130. Like literally, that would be it.
Yes.
Yes. I'm like, oh, stop, please. Like,
yep.
Whatever.
That's what's gonna happen. That is what's gonna happen.
And we're gonna have to come on in the post game show, and people are gonna want to say, "Hey, so what'd you guys take away from the game?" Blake Crum can still run.
Yep.
Donovan Edwards is actually for real.
I guess on the plus side, we won't need to worry as much of did Cade get better today because he's a capable quarterback. So
That's true.
that's
We
a
know what he's
positive,
capable of. Yes,
right?
that's true.
So, I mean, glass half full, glass half full.
Hey, did you see that cut that Blake made? Oh my God! Like, then you're gonna have then you're gonna have after the first 4 weeks, Blake Corum for Heisman. I can already see it. He's gonna have like 650 yards or something insane. Davin Edwards probably gonna have a mixture of rushing, receiving yards. Oh, it's gonna be great. Michigan's gonna lead the conference and lead the country in rushing. Oh yeah. Oh, they're gonna play this one up big. I can't. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. Offensive line is gonna be mauling teams. Just absolutely. Just forget the fact that like the average weight of the Michigan offensive line is going to be like 320 pounds compared to the average defensive line weight for Hawaii and Connecticut being like 260.
If
And
that,
just
you're probably being generous with that.
they got Michigan-sized linebackers playing a defensive line.
215, 200-pound D end. Yeah, it's.
I'm going to put up a graphic. You guys keep talking. I'm just going to put up a graphic. I'm going to remind Dre of something.
No,
and I'm not going to check my work. I'm almost positive this was the number. So you guys can. It'll take me a minute to type this out here.
It's just I don't want to look. He's
Um,
It's just not his style. I think we can just kind of.
If you don't run the score up, throwing it around. Let's have some fun. Come on, let's
having fun. I was right there with Dez last year. I and again, just like Dez said, I guess we were wrong. But I was thinking, you need to work on the passing game. You need to get these reps. What are you doing?
We all were.
And now I think a valid thing to think about is, you don't have the safe hands of Hassan Haskins. I think he got, the unreal amount of carries with 0 fumbles. Never. If it was 0 fumbles, it was 0 lost fumbles. But very sure-handed running back, and he took the bulk of that load. I would assume Blake Corum's probably going to be your number one, but I don't think he's got the size of to be able to handle 25, 30 carries in a game.
50. I think it'll be more 50-50, Dez. I really do.
Agree. Yeah.
And thanks for that, Mark. I think that was Devin Gardner. I think that was at Connecticut, by the way. And yeah, I remember that game very vividly. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Yeah, 21 all in that game. Man, that could have been embarrassing.
No, it would have been not the first in a long list of embarrassing games. You got I think that's the same year of Minnesota. Shane Moore stumbling to the sideline because he just got concussed.
Yeah, that was a bad look.
That year was just that was just a long. Ironically though, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Wait a minute, no, I think that was 2012. What year was that? 2012, the Michigan Ohio State game when Ohio State was undefeated. Michigan was like 6-5, and they had that close game at the Big House.
Well, just letting you know, Ohio State was undefeated both years in that game.
Thank you for that. Right.
Let me just do this. But so the first one was in Columbus, was 26-21 with Denard Robinson at QB. The second one was the Devin Gardner
limping
Ohio
around.
State defense wasn't really that good. And 42-41, they went for the 2.
I still think about that play. And here's the rule of thumb is when you run a 2-point play and you line up in your 2-point play and you run your motion and then the other team calls a timeout, you cannot run that play. You have to scrap it. Go if that was your best 2-point play, short yardage, you now pick your second one.
Dude, we thought Delio was like Wes Welker or something like that.
Brady Hoke, no. Run the same. Like, that's just crazy. It's crazy to me that they lined up and did the same thing. I could not believe it. When I saw the formation, I'm like, this kind of looks like the same thing. I'm like, but they probably won't run that motion though. And then here comes Dilio coming across. I'm like, they did it. Wow, they did it. I'm like, and at that moment, I'm like, this better work because otherwise, you're going to look pretty bad. I don't want to go too aggressive, but I just there are high school coaches that know that
But
you
that game
can't
was
do that.
fun. But you know what? That was one of the rare occasions during the really dark time in Michigan football history. That was one of the rare occasions that it was like such house money because I could feel the angst and the anxiety of all the Ohio State fans at that time because that game Ohio State had so much on the line and Michigan had nothing, and I just was like, this is great. You could see like the confidence in Ohio State fans. They came into the big house, so we're about to take over this thing. This thing's
Hmm.
about to be a blowout, and you get to see like like the blank stares and just like what is happening right now. And it I will say this. That was one even to this day, of course, this past fall when we destroyed them, ranks number one. But I'll say in the last 10, 20 years, that game, '06, ranks up there with the most fun I've had watching the game because of just that point, the house money, and it was a great day of football. I mean, and then you have for Desmond's Payne later that night, with the kick six.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that was kick six. Yeah, that was. Ugh. And get to relive that every November too, because when Auburn and Alabama play, they always replay it. So, you know, never live that one down.
How do
Never
you
let it
not
go.
stop a guy going up the sideline? Like I don't understand it. The pursuit of y'all had to
But
really.
you gotta think about who's on the field. It's the field goal team, which is all O linemen. I mean, these guys are 300 plus pounds, and you
They've been
want
playing
them.
football their whole life. You need to know how to pursue better than that. That pursuit was terrible. There's no way in the world, as far as he had to run, like
But you're
dude.
also talking about a cornerback who's the fastest guy on the field, and you're talking about O linemen trying to catch him, with also 10 guys helping block too. I mean, I could see how it happens. I mean, Ed Reed did it in the NFL, and those are even more elite athletes. So what do you have to say about that?
Dude. Sometimes when your school's gonna
When
be a
I'm
part,
right, yeah,
yeah,
that's what you don't like, my friend.
whatever.
But yeah, so well, I mean, who knows? We'll see what happens. This November, it'll be a big one. But yeah, that man, that game, that Michigan should have had that one. That was.
Mark, I would love to get your as we're now in NFL mock draft time. Who's the better prospect, Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson?
I'm a Garrett Wilson guy.
Okay.
I just think he's got a bigger NFL frame, bigger wingspan. I just have always thought Garrett Wilson looks like the prototypical NFL receiver. Chris Olave is like a baller. Chris Olave's just a guy that, he almost plays like if you threw him at safety out of nowhere, he would do a pretty good job. Like
Hmm.
He
they're just a little
He
bit
ran a
seems.
40.
different.
His 40 was really impressive, though. I
It
think he ran
was.
yeah.
What did
Yeah.
he weigh in at? He seems small, and maybe that's just how he looks on the field. But is he? I mean, are we talking what 185, 190, or is he
Yeah, I don't know what the
lighter than
numbers
that?
are, but I have the same thought looking at those two guys. I've always thought Olave is a small guy, not a prototypical NFL body.
Yeah,
Hmm.
both of them are really good route runners, though. Really good route runners.
But because like I said, I'm married into an Ohio State family. My father-in-law, he actually likes Smith and Jigba over both those guys. In terms of like his like the better player. So I just think it's interesting. Both guys going to be in the first round. Obviously, me, Des, and I are Lions fans, sadly, and so we're going to be needing a receiver. And I just want to know what you think. And a trip. It's going to be. Then of course, were you guys shocked that? Guys, why am I drawing a blank on my own player? What's going on with me right now?
Ojabo,
Hutchinson, Trey Hutch, why? What's
the
going on?
Hutchinson,
Michigan
Ojabo.
legend Aiden Hutchinson.
Aiden
Is that
Hutchinson,
is
I'm
that what
sorry.
we're talking about right
I was
now?
my Trey Hickerson.
Goodness
My head's all over the
gracious!
place, man. My head's all over the place. Thank you. I should know better.
No
Aiden,
respect.
should it be a concern? It's my last question, real quick. Should it be a concern that despite testing really well, 40 shuttle time, bench press, height, all that stuff, that Aiden has surprisingly short arms for his body frame?
I would be concerned more so if he had issues with that at Michigan.
Yeah.
To me, it didn't seem like it was a problem.
Definitely not against
So,
Ohio State.
and I'm not going to create a problem where there is one. Like it's similar to the small hands of a quarterback. Well, Kenny Pickett played football in the Northeast, so if he were to have fumbling issues, we'd probably see them already. And I think, oddly enough, Desmond Ridder has huge hands and has way more fumbles than Kenny Pickett does. So to me, with Aiden, I mean, would I rather have a guy with longer arms and a lower motor? Like, no. Give me Aiden. I'm not gonna create a problem where there is one. Now, as his defensive line coach, I'm going to really work on his technique, because that could be an issue when you're going against 6'7" offensive linemen that have wingspans the size of a house. But I mean, I'm not gonna be concerned about something that did not show up on film at all.
I would just love for one day Michigan to be at this time of the year. It's just cool, to see like your skill position guys and mocked in the first round. Ohio State has the luxury of both receiver and corners every year being mocked in the first round. I'm like, wow, that really shows you the discrepancy. But whatever, maybe we'll get there. According to Harbaugh, we're on our way to getting there. We're about to be dangerous and eyeing the national title. So we'll see if Jimmy can back up those claims.
All I got left are 2 combine notes that one I would love to see researched. The other one, just a little fun fact. So the fun fact is that Olave and Wilson are only the second teammates. This is according to the NFL Network, so I assume it's accurate. Olave and Wilson are the only second pair of teammates to run in the 4.3s.
I don't think I thought you were gonna say first round receivers. I was gonna say that's probably Alabama with Judy and Ruggs, but I don't think Judy ran that fast. I think he was 4.4.
Back off.
But
that's Ohio State.
So the other teammates, the only 2 teammates, they both come from Ohio State. Terry McLaurin and Paris Campbell ran in the 4.3.
Meanwhile, my corner, our corner, Vincent Gray, ran a 4.59. So that's.
Which, to be fair, is not like slow. It's just not great for an NFL corner.
What difference that is, like a 4.3 compared to a 4.59.
Yeah.
That is steps. Like that is at least 2 steps ahead. If you're running, oh my god,
it's trouble. Let's put it that way. It's trouble.
I just had to say that.
But also too, I think that if you play faster than 4.59, then that's fine. But if you don't, that's a concern.
Or you can just be in man-to-man, like good old Don Brown was, and while your corners are significantly slower than the other team's receivers, you could just
Brandon Watson
crossing route.
You
could try to chase them around all day, but case in point.
Yeah, he had a rough
The stat that I wanted to see this year that I've seen thrown up before is actually for as much as we want these guys to be fast, and of course you're a wide receiver or a cornerback, that's like requirement number 1. They've shown the top receivers in the NFL and run down their 40 times and where they ranked. I've seen them throw up those numbers. I don't know them exactly, but just run down the DK Metcalf, on down the line, whoever it is, AJ Green in the past, Julio Jones, and what they ran. And it is surprising. Most of them, there'll be a guy every so often that'll be, first or second in his class, and he turns out to be a superstar in the NFL. But most of them didn't run great 40 times.
Yeah.
Cooper Cup ran a 4.65. I just looked it up. It's like a 4.65. It was surprisingly slow for.
He's an exception, not the rule.
I
But
know. I'm
Yeah.
just. I was
when you
saying.
look at the fastest 40 times, I mean, most of the guys, I mean, outside of Chris Johnson, like don't really play that much. I mean, you had
John
John
Ross doesn't have a
Ross,
John
job.
Ross.
He
right?
doesn't have a job right now. I don't
Yeah,
think
like
he's a
I
free
mean,
agent.
it's yeah. CJ2K, I would say is the outlier. I mean, he was what 2,000 yard rusher twice, if I'm not mistaken, or 1,900 and then 2,000. I mean, he was really good running back, but yeah, it's. I mean, there's just so much more to playing football than running in a straight line for 40 yards. Like it just rarely happens. So yeah, like you said, Mark, and I want to say, how fast did Michael Thomas run his 40? Because I feel like he wasn't a blazer, but a really good wide receiver. I want to say he was in the 4.5 range, but I could be
Probably.
wrong.
And then the other thing I'm curious about, I would love to see somebody run these numbers. So the fastest conference in the nation is supposed to be
SEC.
The
the
SEC.
SEC.
Hmm.
I would just love to see. I've never seen a compilation of what do the various conferences run if you take all the players and maybe take out the offensive linemen because it doesn't matter what they run. Um, and I would like to see somebody run through the numbers and either confirm that or deny it. And
See,
again, that's
but
not football speed. That's not on a football field, but it
right.
still is running a 40.
Mark, that could be something you do on your channel, the Voice of
Look,
College Football. I mean,
I
that
that
would
was
would
love that
they're
stuff.
they're technically still
but it
college
plays into the
guys.
recruiting. It plays into the recruiting, Mark, because we talked about the. Remember, we brought up a subject one day. Could Michigan ever get to the Georgia level? And you just saw, like with this combine, how all the Georgia players tested out incredibly. I mean, Jordan Davis, for his size,
Oh,
had one
What,
of the
over
most
4.8? I mean, that was
four
crazy.
seven eight. I mean, it defies human
he could
logic.
almost run down
Physics.
Vincent Gray.
Yeah. Yeah, he could. Well, look, he ran down poor Blake Corum in the game in the semifinals game. So, but it's I think it's that discrepancy. It's not so much the skill positions as much as it's the
Yeah.
big people.
Yeah.
And I think athletically, the offensive lineman and defensive lineman, I think eight is an exception. In Ohio State, the Bosa's and Chase Youngs, they're an exception compared to the average athleticism in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Those guys,
I
those
agree.
people in Big Ten don't compare to the athletic big guys in the SEC. I think
I
that's where,
agree.
that's
Yeah,
where.
I think that's what it's been. It's been, I want to say edge rushers, even though the Big Ten's had great edge rushers, but waves and waves of them, and linebackers. Yeah, linebackers that can just, haul has been a difference. Although, Ohio State a couple of years ago, they had Pete Werner and Tough Borland at linebacker totally getting torched and made fun of. And then Pete Werner gets selected like in the second round of the NFL draft, and he's a pretty good player for the Saints. So maybe it's that Ohio State scheme. I don't know.
Hey, look, look, to this day, I'm still shocked that God, was it Brandon Watkins? Is his name? I'm still shocked he got a job in the NFL. But
Watson.
Watson, thank you.
He had a rough day.
He
He
had a
had a
rough
rough day.
he had a rough day. I
He
remember the
was
next
the Michigan corner. The what was that 2018 Dre with the 50
the six.
50.
It was a 60 burger, wasn't it? It was a 60, 62-39.
Yeah, he had a
Well,
rough day.
I literally look. We literally catapulted. Um, Guys, why am I struggling with names today? Who was the quarterback for Ohio State?
Dwayne Haskins.
We catapulted Dwayne Haskins into like a first round selection. Literally, we made his whole highlight tape that year, right in that game.
Yeah, it was a rough day. It was a rough day.
You know, tell me twice. You know how hot and excited I was going into that game. I was talking a lot of
You
trash.
were.
You're
That's
talking about I want to
probably
play Bama.
the only time that I've seen you be what I would call a fanatic. You were just but in your defense, you actually had reason
We won
to
10 in a
to
row,
think
dude.
that.
We
Yeah,
won 10 in a
you
row
had
playing our
reason to
best
think that.
football.
Hmm.
Here I am. Ohio State literally survives a Maryland game that they should have lost. The freaking quarterback hit a
One-hopped it.
wide open 2-point conversion.
Mhm.
They're literally limping into the game, and I'm like, Michigan's favored at NC Bus for the first time in a really long time. I can't remember X amount of years. They got me all excited. I'm thinking I'm seeing Ohio State got cracked, chinks in the armor, and they're just barely there. I'm like, this is about to be great. About to bust through. This is revenge for 2016, and that proceeds to happen. And I'm literally taking a nap by halftime, and then I had to wake up in the second half, and I felt like I was watching a rerun of the first half. I'm like, well, what is going on? Did we not make any adjustments here? What are you doing, Don? Don, what did you discuss? Oh, let me see. Were you on the board and you said, okay, hey guys, so they're like, oh, coach, sorry, coach, what we're gonna do? The exact same thing we did in the first half. You gotta have to play it better. Play it better.
Forget about zone defense. No.
Are we gonna
Man
go zone?
up.
No, we're not going zone. When have we ever gone zone this year?
You guys
Do
are
your
tough.
job.
Do it. Yes. Cover the track stars lining up at wide receiver.
Can't do it. All right, I'm
Be
done.
faster in the second half. That was the speech.
Yes, be faster. React quicker.
Yeah.
Look, I know you're behind. I know that you're trailing the guy who has the football, but how about you dive a little bit sooner and try and catch him by his shoelaces before he gets 2 or 3 steps ahead of you? Stuff like that. But whatever. I guess that'll be another blown opportunity.
It's a new day, Dre.
Yep, it is a new day.
I'm still scarred. I mean, you guys understand, man. Like the worst thing about because Ohio State, you guys have the luxury of, even though look, it was embarrassing. This past November, you still have the previous 15 years of okay, fine, yeah, congratulations, you guys have won in the first 15 years, whatever it is, and you get to lean on that. When you've been the doormat for years, and then you have a game like that, and then the worst part is that you have to wait another 365 days to try to, rewrite things, and you get the same thing over and over again. It's scarring, and it's yeah. Let me stop. I'm going all day. I probably need to lay on a couch and talk to somebody about this, but it is what it is.
Oh man, good stuff. Well, I was gonna say I think that might be all for us today. Mark, you got anything else you wanna hit?
I am good to go. I'll just let people know we're talking Miami football at 7:00 Eastern on the Miami channel, but that's it.
Exciting.
Sounds good. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We appreciate it as always, and we will be back here next week at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're here Saturdays after Michigan football games, not basketball. But that is it for us. So thanks everybody for joining. We appreciate it. Mark and